is to prefer to be right than to be effective.
Oh, that is deep. That is very deep.
Actually,
Political correctness
wow.
is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it is.
Hey guys, love guys. Today we are going to watch Stephen Fry on political correctness. So political correctness is a very wide topic, and what we know that it is not that good to be politically correct every time, because you know how everybody just wants to be diplomatic and how everybody wants to be like keep everyone happy. So is he talking about that, or is he just going on something different? And like it will be very fun to watch, so let's watch this
Video.
In agreeing to participate in this debate and stand on this side of the argument, I'm fully aware that many people who choose incorrectly, in my view, to see this issue in terms of left and right, devalued and exploded terms as I think they are, will believe that I am betraying myself in such causes and values that I have espoused over the years. I've been given huge grief already simply because I'm standing here next to Professor Peterson, which is the very reason that I am standing here in the first place. I'm standing next to someone with whom I have, differences, shall we say, in terms of politics and all kinds of other things, precisely because I think all this has got to stop. This rage, resentment, hostility, intolerance, above all this with us or against us, certainty. A Grand Canyon has opened up in our world. The fissure, the crack, grows wider every day. Neither on each side can hear a word that the other shrieks, and nor do they want to. While these armies and propagandists in the culture wars clash, down below in the enormous space between the two sides, the people of the world try to get on with their lives, alternately baffled, bored, and betrayed by the horrible noises and explosions that echo all around. I think it's time for this toxic, binary, zero-sum madness to stop before we destroy ourselves.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I better nail my colours to the mast before I get any further in this. It's only polite to give you a sense of where I come from. All my adult life I have been what you might call a lefty, a soft lefty, a liberal of the most hand-wringing, milksop, milk-toast variety. Not a burning man the barricade socialist, not even really a progressive worth the name. I've been on marches, but I've never quite dared wave placards or banners. Am I a loathed member of that band, an SJW, a social justice warrior? I don't think highly of social injustice, I have to say, but I character myself mostly as a social justice warrior. My intellectual heroes growing up were Bertrand Russell and G.E. Moore, liberal thinkers, people like that, writers like E.M. Forster. I believed, and I think I still do believe, in the sanctity of human relations, of the primacy of the heart, and
I'm waiting for the but.
Love and common interest. These are more personal, interior beliefs than they are political exterior convictions, more a humanistic version of a religious impulse, I suppose. I trust in humanity. I believe in humanity. I think I do.
Me too.
Despite all that has happened in the 40 years of my adulthood. I am soft, and I can easily be swept away by harder hearts and harder intellects. I'm sometimes surprised to be described as an activist, but over time I have energetically involved myself with what you might call causes. I grew up knowing that I was gay. Well, in fact, from the very first I knew I was gay. I remember when I was born looking up and saying, that's the last time I'm going out one of those. I'm
so clear.
I'm Jewish, so I have a natural horror of racism. I want racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, bullying, bigotry, intolerance of all human kinds to end. And that's surely a given amongst all of us. The question is how such a golden aim is to be achieved. My ultimate objection to political correctness is not that it combines so much of what I have spent a lifetime loathing and opposing, preachiness, with great respect, piety, self-righteousness, heresy hunting, denunciation, shaming, assertion without evidence, accusation, inquisition, censoring. That's not why I'm incurring the wrath of my fellow liberals by standing on this side of the House. My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works. I want to achieve, I want to get to the Golden Hill, but I don't think that's the way to get there. I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective.
That is deep. That is very deep.
Actually,
Political correctness
wow.
is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it is.
How effective you are.
I wouldn't class myself as a classical libertarian, but I do relish transgression, and I deeply and instinctively distrust conformity and orthodoxy. Progress is not achieved by preachers and guardians of morality, but, to paraphrase Yevgeny Zemyatin, by madmen, hermits, heretics, dreamers, rebels, and skeptics.
Yeah. True.
People who are effective, who can do their things.
I may be wrong. I hope to learn this evening. I really do think I may be wrong, but I'm prepared to entertain the possibility that political correctness will bring us more tolerance and a better world. But I'm not sure, and I would like this quotation from my hero Bertrand Russell to hover over the evening. One of the painful things about our time is that those who feel certainty are stupid, and those with any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt and indecision.
Wow.
Amazing. What a speech.
You know, that's what the smart minds are silent. And that is an issue.
No, it's interesting to hear that there really doesn't seem to be a problem, but yet I think we all instinctively know that there is some kind of problem. There isn't censorship, of course not, in the way that there is in Russia. I've been to Russia. I faced off with a deeply homophobic and unpleasant man, and there's political correctness in Russia. It's just political correctness on the right, and that's what I grew up with. Political correctness, which meant that you couldn't say certain things on television. You couldn't say fuck, for example, on television, because it was incorrect to do so. And as always, the same reason was that someone would appear and say, I'm not shocked. Oh, of course, no, I'm not shocked. I'm not offended. I'm offended on behalf of others, young, impressionable, plastic minds, the vulnerable. And that's not good enough. It's so often people are saying, see, I don't mind being called a faggot or a kite.
But don't call the other people that.
Because I've got mental health issues. I don't mind people insulting me. And people say, well, that's all right for you, Stephen, because you know you're strong. Well, I don't feel particularly strong. And I don't know that I like being called a faggot and a kite particularly. But I don't believe that the advances in my culture that have allowed me to marry, as I have now been for 3 years to someone of my gender, I don't believe they are a result of political correctness. And maybe political correctness is actually just some sort of live trout, that the harder we squeeze it, the further it goes away. And you will be saying, I'm not talking about political correctness, you're talking about social justice, with which I agree, with whether you want to call it identity politics or the history of your people, the history of my people were slaves as well. Both the British were slaves of Romans and the Jews were slaves of the Egyptians.
Oh, really?
All human beings have been slaves at some point, and we all, in that sense, share that knowledge of how important it is to speak up.
The Indians could relate.
But Russell Means, who was a friend of mine towards the end, who founded the American Indian movement, he said, oh, for God's sake, call me an Indian, or a Lakota Sioux, or Russell. I don't care what you call me, it's how we're treated that matters. And so I'm really addressing a more popular idea. Also, actually, in Barrow, Alaska, an Inupiat said, call me an Eskimo. It's obviously easier for you because you keep mispronouncing Inupiat.
Inupiat. It's an Indian name.
You know, words do matter. I'll just end with a quick story. Gay rights came about in England because we slowly and persistently knocked on the door of people in power. We didn't shout, we didn't scream. People like Ian McKellen eventually got to see the Prime Minister. And when the Queen signed in the royal assent, as she has to, for the bill allowing equality of marriage, she said, Lord, you know, I couldn't imagine this in 1953. Really is extraordinary, isn't it? Just wonderful. And handed it over. Now, that's a nice story, and I hope it's true, but it's nothing to do with political correctness. It's to do with human decency. It's that simple.
And now this was also caused by those rebels
Yeah.
who made sure that, okay, gay marriage should be legal.
I'm still very lost about why we aren't talking about political correctness. We're talking about politics, and that's fine. And I share exactly what you think about it. I'm not an enemy of identity politics per se. I can obviously see where it goes wrong and where it's annoying. Let's be empirical about this. How well is it working for you in America at the moment?
Well,
not well at all. Really isn't.
Right.
You can answer me in a moment. The reason that Trump and Brexit in Britain and all kinds of nativists all over Europe are succeeding is not the triumph of the right, it's the catastrophic failure of the left.
Oh.
It's our fault.
Yes.
We absolutely...
Left is falling
My
away.
point is not that I've turned to the right or anything like that, or that I'm nice and fluffy and want everybody to be decent. I'm saying fuck political correctness. Resist. Fight. If you have a point of view, fight it in the proper manner, using democracy as it should be, not channels of education, not language.
Yeah.
You know, it's so silly. There's a chess rule, you know. In chess, the best move to play in chess is not the best chess move, it's the move your opponent least wants you to play. At the moment, you're being recruiting sergeants for the right. By annoying and upsetting, and instead of fighting, either fighting or persuading. But political correctness is a middle course that simply doesn't work.
Well, first of all,
of course, I recognise the bestiality of Weinstein and the monstrosity of his behaviour, and it was shocking to me. I actually worked for him. Script doctoring, as it's called. I never had the bathroom towel. But for pretty obvious reasons. But it's, grotesque, and I can't imagine how vile it must be for such a powerful man, and he was. I used to play a game at the Cannes Film Festival where, in his years of power, we're walking
So
from
the
one
person
end to
he's talking about is Harvey Weinstein. So that person is because of him, that Me Too movement, you remember Me Too?
No, I don't know.
There was a movement called Me Too, like all the girls came out and told that, okay, like I have been suffering from sexual harassment or sexual advances from my colleagues or this or that.
Oh, Me Too movement.
So that movement started because of kind of Harvey Weinstein only, because how there were girls coming up and saying that, okay, he used to do this to her. He was a big producer.
Oh.
So for him, like people used to come to him for movies and everything. So he used to take advantages. So he's talking about him.
Oh.
Hotel at the end there, all the way up to the Palais de Festival, you would get 10 points every time you heard the word Harvey. And usually, a 10-minute walk, you'd have 300 points. Because it was, Harvey's got the script, Harvey's got it. I've got a meeting with Harvey at the Majestic in the afternoon. He was immensely powerful.
Harvey Weinstein.
And I think that's obvious that someone in that position, abusing and threatening and hindering the livelihood of women is grotesque in the extreme. But I have to tell you, there is genuine feeling amongst many people I know that we can't speak our minds. We can't actually speak to the true nuance, the true depth of sexual, romantic feeling between men and women. It's not a subject I'm absolutely expert on, but it counts between men and men as well, though I know when it's men and men, you might say, well, that's different because women have had a different experience in history, and I don't want to enter that particular field, but I would say that there is real fear. In my business, which is where this all started, show business, acting, and so on. People are rather afraid to speak about a piece of, publicity that's come out or a statement that's been made. You just go, absolutely, and wait for the people to leave the room before you can speak honestly with your friends. And I've never experienced that in my entire 60 years on this planet. This feeling that. And I'm not characterising feminists as in East German, but it's like that, the Stasi are listening. You better be careful, they're listening. And that's a genuine feeling. I'm saying that with my hand on my heart. I'm not saying it to make a point other than the fact that it's true and it's worrying. But the sexual misadventures and horror experience is worrying too. So there are two worries. And I think people will look back on this debate.
So this is a nice way of saying that people are also afraid of talking about sex.
I said it was. I said it was slippery. I mean, it's interesting to hear talk about race and about gender and about equality, and it's something that I've thought about a lot and I can learn a great deal about, but that's not why I came to this debate. I was interested in what I've always been interested in, the suppression of language and thought, the closing down, the rationalist idea that seems beguiling, that if you limit people's language, it may somehow teach them a different way of thinking.
Yes.
Something that would have delighted the inventors of George Orwell's Newspeak, for example. And it seems to me it's just implausible. It doesn't work, and that's what I mean by empirical. It doesn't stand an empirical test. It isn't experientially validated, as we see from the political landscape now, and I worry that we may in the future. So I'm sort of disappointed that the subject has just revolved around academia, which was predictable, because that's the sort of crucible in which these elements are mixed. But even more disappointed that really I haven't heard from Michelle or from Professor Dyson as to what they think political correctness is. Because what they've talked about is basically saying progress, in our view, is progress. Well, I agree. That's, yeah. So it is too. And good on progress. But how is it that you're saying that what we call political correctness, you call progress? That's what you're supposed to be arguing. I want to know what you mean by
the internet.
Their names.
No, but I mean,
I'm scared.
If
I listed,
but
that's
again,
the point.
You're scared.
It is a culture of
right.
fear.
I understand there's that element of fear. What I'm saying is that it's a feeling. It's a feeling that is this sort of intangible result of primarily.
We've all seen the sort of show trial thing where the person then apologizes. I have so much to learn about sexual politics. I am really sorry. Signed a lawyer, crossed out the name of the person. You think the real mistake of our left is that we underestimate the right. The right isn't as stupid as we'd like them to be. If only they were. If only they weren't so cunning, so sly, so smart, so aware of our shortcomings. And I just fear that political correctness is a weapon that they value. That the more we tell the world how people should be treated, how language should be treated, what words are acceptable, what attitudes are acceptable, what HR meeting is going to tell you in a long bullet-pointed list about how you look at people. All of this is meat and drink to bad people, to malefactors, to bad actors. I'm not counting myself as one of those bad actors in that sense. I mean bad actors in the other sense.
We got you.
Like I said, there are a lot of ways in which I agree with you, although I would like to hear, to turn it back on you, I'd like to hear you say, what are the words that have fallen into disrepute that you think we should be resurrecting, right? To me, this is this area of hotly contested social change right now, where a lot of people feel...
It's about words that have gone into disuse. It's very often phrases, jargonistic slogans, heteronormative, cisgendered, those kind of things. They're just an insult. Imagine you're a young student arriving at university and someone's bombarding you with this preposterous hermeneutical nonsense from misread textbooks and misread Foucault, if I may say, and misread Derrida, and so on. Because I was at Cambridge, England, doing English literature. We had our French phase, and there's value in that. It's an interesting game, and it's a place to... I think I would just really say that the ghost hovering over me is... It's a letter Oscar Wilde wrote, and he said to Bosie, his love, he said, the fact that you didn't get a degree is nothing, but you never acquired what is sometimes called the Oxford Manner, and I'll say for that,
Oxford Manner?
University Manner.
What is Oxford Manner?
He said, Oscar said, I take that to mean the ability to play gracefully with ideas.
Oh.
I think that's disappearing from our culture. I think it's
Playing gracefully with ideas. Wow.
It's got a whole massive down himself.
Very nice.
There we are. I'll hide behind the lectern in that case. Well, I've been fascinated by this conversation. There's been an enormous clash of cultures in the conversation we've had, classic, if I can call it, huckstering snake oil pulpit talk, which is
Snake oil
It's a-
perfect dog. She's
It's
not
a
happy.
Discourse, it's a rhetorical style that I find endlessly refreshing and vivifying. But I'm not sure that we actually focused on the point in question. And my objection has always been towards orthodoxies. I'm a heterodox and a contrarian, and I can't help myself. And I think there's been an underestimation of the fact that language does affect people. It does make the young, in particular, as they're starting out on their educational or their work careers, it makes them very anxious. It makes them very angry, very upset, very alienated, to feel that they don't know anymore how to operate in the world, how to engage in relationships, how to think honestly. So they accrete more and more to their own mini groups, and I think that's dangerous and unhappy for society. I think it's reflected in a paucity of cinema and literature and art and the culture generally, is that there's a fear that's pervading it. And while people can talk to academia and say, you should come and see our lessons, our lectures are open and free and ideas are exchanged, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure it's true, but I don't think we should underestimate how much this feeling is prevalent in the culture of this strange paradox that the liberals are illiberal in their demand for liberality. They are exclusive in their demand for inclusivity. They are homogeneous in their demand for heterogeneity. They are somehow undiverse in their call for diversity. You can be diverse but not diverse in your opinions and in your language and in your behaviour. And that's a terrible pity. So I would say that I'm sorry that it got a bit heated in places, because I was hoping it wouldn't. I was hoping it would be a shining example of how people of all different kinds of political outlooks can speak with humour and wit and a lightness of touch. As G.K. Chesterton said, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And I think it's very important for us, who are privileged, all four of us, privileged to be here.
Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly.
A little bit more lightly, not to be too earnest, too pompous, too serious, and not to be too certain. It's a time, I think, for really engaging, emotionally fulfilling, passionate and positive doubt. That's what I would urge. Thank you.
Wow.
I'm worried that I'm being a little kind of scattergun, really, and that both scattergun and too specific, that I have just taken very literally the popular idea of political correctness as being a kind of control of language and a shutting down of certain phrases or an introduction of others, and the kind of day-to-day, as I say, human resource departments of corporations and that sort of thing, and so I was slightly disappointed that it just became a debate about race and about gender and so on. But that was, I guess, natural. And I still, the fact is, I'm still a lefty, but a soft one. I just don't have...
Soft lefty.
Soft,
flabby,
very
squashy in every sense.
Fluffy.
And I realised that that's not a political point of view, it is a personal one. And the gap between the personal and the political, which is a space you're obviously very interested in as a psychologist, is one that is rarely explored. People are either so personal that it has no application in the outside world and the organisation of human affairs, or they're so political and it's so much to do with structure and distinction between hierarchies and networks and so on, that they forget the individual. And that's the space in which the impassioned liberal lives, and it's not easy to do it, because you often do sound rather wet, and I'm aware that I did, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. Just finally, before I free you two both to a well-earned drink, anything left unsaid, Jordan? Any point that you wanted to make that you didn't feel you had the time or the opportunity?
No, I don't
Said your
think
piece?
so. I said
Okay.
my piece. Yeah.
Great. Same question to you, Stephen.
I know, I think I got across. I mean, there's so much you can talk about in that field, and I just wanted to leave with the point that I do want, like everybody, it's a no-brainer. We want the world to be fairer, juster, sweeter, kinder, but it's how you get there, and I felt I was really addressed.
Okay.
What a perfect speech this was, and he was such a good speaker. He can speak for hours and hours, and you would want to listen to him. The thing is, like how he said about like how language also is very important, and the thing is like if you steal the language, you are taking like main thing from them, and also you are giving your kind of cloak onto them. Because how he was saying like there are very different words like cisgender. Do you know what cisgender means?
No, I don't know.
So cisgender is like the term that is made up by these people, so transgender people or the LGBTQ community. That means like cisgender male. So like
Cisgender male means what?
that I am a male. So normally what I say is male. So they say that male is nothing. You have to say cisgender male.
Cisgender male. Like if you are gay.
If
If you are
I'm
not
male,
non-gay. Acha.
cisgender female.
Oh, cisgender female.
So-
So if I'm introducing myself, so I will say cisgender female.
Yeah, so that's what I think it is. So they have introduced new terms and new things, which was saying that okay, it is not. So they are part of left LGBTQA plus. So he said, I am not too far left. I'm not too far right. I'm a soft lefty.
Oh, soft lefty. But this conversation was amazing. I like to hear debates, but that are more logical and point to point. And this guy was the biggest example of that. Like he was not only thinking about countries' economical growth or something like that. He was beyond that. The culture, the language, how you speak, how you treat people, or kind of other things. So I would say this guy was very like down to earth, and he has a lot to say. But I would like to like rewatch or listen more videos like of him.
And also the thing is like how he said like okay, like we should be able to take jokes and do something about it, because like how he said like angels can fly because they are lighter.
Yeah.
They take everything lightly, something like that. So it was very fun video to watch. How did you guys find it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share, and
Subscribe.
bye.
Bye.